All right, Karen.
Great. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Karen. Karen Richard. I've been doing some family history research for several years. I don't know that I would call myself an expert, but I know a few things. Volunteering. Whoops, I've been muted by the host. Hold on.
Sorry,
oh, I'm not muted. Okay, got it. The little thing popped up saying that. So I've been volunteering in the Topsom Public Library, doing offering a drop-in genealogy drop-in service for about 5 years. And I've been in the history room for, I think, 7 or so years. I'm not even sure how long it's been. And I do a variety of tasks there. And more recently, I have been able to, on just a few occasions, substitute for Robin when she is out. And that's been a good experience. And I appreciate being able to do that. So the idea for this was inspired by my drop-in program. You know, I wanted to have a way to still provide some guidance and be able to take questions and also just have some basic interaction and discussion. Although this will be a different format. And of course, it's going to be just casual and informal because I just think it's more comfortable that way. So today what we're going to be talking about, and I have my handy little list here to make sure I remember everything. So I'm going to talk about some free resources that are available just temporarily from Ancestry, from 2 different versions of Ancestry, and I'll get to that in a second. Then you can throw out some questions or comments throughout if you want, or you can wait till the end, and we will definitely have a question and answer time. Okay, so I guess next I will go on to explaining. There are 2 different versions of Ancestry. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. So there's the home edition. You might sometimes hear it referred to as the personal edition. That is the one that you can access from home, the one that you can use to build a family tree, that sort of thing. The library edition is the one that you have to be in a library to use normally. Right now it's a little different. So first I'm going to talk about the home edition of Ancestry. And now I'm going to grab this share my screen option. And do you see what I see right now? Is the Ancestry up on your screens? I can't see anybody. So Jill, do you see my Ancestry screen?
I don't. I'm going to make you the host.
Let me try this.
Karen, you're in charge, so.
Okay, is it there now?
I don't see it.
Okay.
It worked when we tried it before.
I know, because I'm literally looking at it right now. And you do not see
Started
it.
to go.
Right now, huh?
I can see it now, but it's loading.
I can see it now on my screen. The whole
Okay,
thing.
great.
The landing page.
Very odd. Okay, let me make this small. Yeah, and I apologize, but I will have Jill speak up if there are any issues because I can't actually see everybody right now. So, okay. So hopefully you all see my screen. Now, one of the first things I want to show you, actually, let me go back because that's not technically where I wanted to be right now. There we are. So for the home edition of Ancestry, just go to ancestry.com and you can see right here on the screens on the home page, free K-12 educational resources. So right now Ancestry is making 2 different resources available for free. I have not found any sort of end date, so I don't actually know when these end. So I would say use them sooner rather than later. And so you'll notice I am not signed in. Over here it says sign in. So I'm not even signed in. But you can just go right here through the K-12 educational resources, click on learn more, and it will take you right into, you can just click right through to see these resources. And they have some lesson plans. So you see here, there are a number of them. And these are all in PDF format, so you can download them, print them. I'm going to click on just one of them. Most of my time I wanted to spend looking at a fun collection that Jill and I were exploring the other day. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but I want to at least show you what you can expect. So it indicates some of the standards, which I assume that's teacher speak. I'm not familiar with that myself, but there's some suggestions for lessons and for discussions, ideas for records that you can use in conjunction with this lesson plan. So this is basically what you can expect. And now I'm going to close that out. And I think there were a few research guides down here that you can also explore. I do recommend looking at all of this stuff and playing around with that. So those are some lesson plans that you can access for free right now, and you don't even need to sign in. You just click right on through right here from the homepage on Ancestry.com. Over here, you see National Archives records. This is the second record collection that is freely available. And again, you just click right through. Click right through. There we are. I think it's going now. So from here, this is one way to get into this. And there were a couple other links that Jill shared in the PDF form that she sent to everybody. So there is a search. You can see we have a way of searching right here, but I'm going to scroll down because I think it's always better to first go exploring. They have it separated by naturalization records, passenger crew and lists, and military records. And you can click through one of these. And let's get in here. So you'll see up here there are various tabs that you can go to discover more collections, to learn more about them. What I especially like is they include information about their records, the collections, and some of the events related to them. It's really important to understand the records, to have some context so that you can better figure out what these records even mean and to use them to the greater extent. And in here, they do have some list of collections specifically related to this particular topic. Let me click on one of these. So you see here, just these little pop-ups provide some more information. And further down even, there is more. So there is, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here again because I want to get to the other collection, but I want you to go exploring, check these out. Some of these have timelines. I think it was in the military records that I found a couple of timelines that kind of you can follow along, see how things were, what was happening. This is a blog post that talks about some of these free things that they have available. That was one of the links that I included, so you can read this, see what they have to say about it. It might offer a little more insight into what they have, how to use it. So just, check this out as well. And then the last thing I wanted to point out, and this is another link that should be included in there. Sometimes I find it easier to go to see a list. So when you access those National Archives, and I'm sorry, I should mention National Archives and Records Administration, that is what NARA stands for. Those are the records that were available, that are freely available right now. And this is another way of looking at them. They have it listed alphabetically, although I will point out, you want to be sure to look at the whole list because, for instance, if you're looking for the War of 1812, they also have it available under US. So you would look under both U and W. And I'm scrolling a little quickly just so I can show you that. So you see US, and I know I saw it in here somewhere. Well, anyway, you can see there is quite a long list of collections that are available through this, and they vary a lot. So that is one of the other ones. Trying to see if anybody needs me to pop in there and show you anything specific, because primarily I just wanted to show you that these were available and that you don't even need to sign in to access these, that you have a variety of access points and that there is information about the records as well. So before I move on to talking about the other stuff that I wanted to get to, the baseball collections, I'm going to find out are there any questions about this specifically, and of course we can get into it more later as well. But Jill, are there any comments or questions about this right now?
It is in the chat. Is everyone able to unmute yourself if you have a question?
And of course they could throw it in chat too.
Yeah. If you have
Okay.
a question, you can throw it in chat anytime, or you can kind of wave your hand.
Yeah. Okay.
Make sure
Well then, I'm going to carry on. So I was exploring the other day, actually, so let me backtrack. So the next portion will be about the Ancestry Library Edition. Now notice here, right now, I'm in the personal, the home edition. It just says Ancestry over here. When I'm in the Library Edition, I'll show you how different that looks. So the Library Edition is the one you normally have to be in the library to access it. Right now, it has been made available for free from home remotely. And I discovered you do not even need to use a library card to sign in, which is really fantastic because there are a lot of people who do not have library cards. Although anybody can get one from the Maine State Library from their website. So to access the Library Edition, which is a little different from the personal edition, there are fewer collections. There's still quite a lot. You can do, quite an amount of research through even this without having to subscribe or anything from the home. You can just go to the library and use that and get a lot of research done. So there are a number of ways to get there. Basically, any library that is part of the Digital Maine, the consortium that has the Digital Maine Library databases will have links to this. Right now we're on, of course, Pat and Free's homepage. And if you just scroll down to quick links, they have it right here, Digital Maine Library. You can get there quite easily, and it will take you to the list of databases. And while that's loading, I'm going to go and, whoops, there you are. You can also just type in Digital Maine, say library.digitalmaine.org. You can Google it, however you want to get to it. Once you're in here, you can get to, there we are. You can get to Ancestry two ways. One is to use a subject and go to genealogy, or because this is actually listed in alphabetical order, you can just simply scroll down because Ancestry is not that far, and literally just click right on it, and it will take you directly into Ancestry. And that's it. That's how simple it is to get there. Now, I could say a whole lot about using Ancestry in general, either version, but today we're going to talk about the card catalog. You can see there are a number of ways to go exploring in all these different topics. What I want to show you is up here on the search tab. We're going to click on that. And at the bottom, you see card catalog. And I hope everybody becomes familiar with this, makes use of it. This is one of the best ways to go exploring. And it needs to actually click, of course, right? So here we are. So once you're in here, I'm going to scroll down slowly. You can see over here we have a number of filter options. So these are various categories. And I'm going to go a little further. You can see you also have, there we go, too far, locations. And then below that, we have some dates. So you can filter in a number of ways, and you can even do so by language in some cases. I especially love to explore, not surprisingly, this stories, memories, and histories. So let's go there. And then you see the filter has changed again. it's narrowed down. When the more you filter through, the narrower those filters become. So again, you want to keep exploring. And when I was playing around in here the other day, I noticed this one. I had no idea there was anything about baseball in Ancestry, and I just thought that was really cool. So I was talking to Jill about it, and we were playing around, and I'm going to go browse through here now. So when you click through to these baseball questionnaires, 1945 to 2005, and you see, as always, there are search fields. But I want to point out, when you are in a specific collection, some of the fields will change. There are not going to be that many collections that have search fields for position or team. That's not something you're going to find everywhere. And this also has a graduation date. So those are some of the search fields. I also want to recommend that you always come down and look at the source information and read about the collection itself. And this one's kind of sparse. I would have liked a little more information, but it still gives you at least a little bit about it, some of the things you might expect to find in these records. You can see this is a pretty decent list there of interesting stuff. So I'm going to scroll back up here. You'll notice there are related data collections, and we're going to come back to that in a minute. In fact, there. We'll get back to that in a minute. So you can search by name or other by field, or let me scroll back up here, or you can just search by team if you want. You can just literally fill in the team and nothing else and try that, or position, or however you want. A lot of collections also have a browse option. And normally I can easily understand how they're organized. In this case, I have no idea what these numbers are for, but I encourage you to come play around with them. Take a look, just see what you find, where you end up. It's really fun and sometimes quite informative to just go exploring. A lot of other collections are organized by either surname or maybe some kind of location. If it's a book, it'll be, of course, by chapter, a number of other ways. Now, I have a specific person that I am going to search for. My nephew is named for this guy. My brother is obviously a baseball fan. So I just type in a name. And if I put in just Ryan without the Nolan, I would have gotten more search results. But because he is the only Nolan Ryan, you see there's only one result here. So I'm going to click on View Record. It still doesn't take me to the actual record. This is, in fact, the index. You always want to go to the record itself. So over here, we're going to click on View. Give it a second to load up. And I'm going to get up to the top here. And there are a number of tools over here to make it bigger, smaller, that sort of thing. So this one says it is specifically a New York Mets questionnaire. And you're going to find that as I was exploring, I discovered that there were different questionnaires. One of them was specifically for managers. There was another one that seemed to be more of a broader questionnaire that I think was used for multiple clubs, possibly. There is a date stamp up here. I don't know that that's necessarily the date it was filled out, because on another one that I looked at, there was a place for date on the form itself, and it was different than the stamp. So you want to keep that in mind when you're looking at any record. So they have some fun questions in here, and actually some surprising amount of information I would not have expected to find. Not only his address, but even the phone number and his parents' name, address, and phone number, which is a lot more than you would think. I suppose not surprising to find the height, the weight, that they bat right, throws right. Thankfully, Social Security number is crossed out, smart. You even get some information about his heritage. Has some Irish ancestry apparently, and Jill and I both got a kick out of this. We love this. Marital status, will marry in June. And if he had kids, even they would have been named. Down further, you see they even provide a space for their winter occupation. In his case, at the time, it was student. And even, and I really like this question, who was the biggest influence in your decision to play pro baseball and why? And he doesn't necessarily provide a lot of the why or any of it, in fact, but it's still kind of cool to see, you know, who he considered to be the influencers in his life. Of course, you also see about some high school experience when he graduated, that he lettered in some things, and even a state, all state 19, I believe that's 15. College information, and of course you see some of this is blank. It doesn't always all apply, or in some cases maybe just didn't bother to fill out. And even scholarship information. I thought that was interesting. Many in baseball. Now in this collection, for whatever reason, it seems like there's a blank page in between every single document. So I'm just going to skip right through and go to the next one and get up to the top, and you can see it says page 2, and over here they did write Ryan, so you know that you are still in fact on the correct, it is the correct, because sometimes the documents might get separated, or hopefully in this case it was front and back, so it wasn't 2 separate pages and they were kept together. You can find out who the scout was that signed him. And again, a lot of interesting questions that are not all filled out, but some of the other players may have put information. So why did you elect not to sign with the original club? That's not something he needed to answer apparently, but that's another question that could be informative for those who are really into this stuff. And also even military records, well, not records, but information. If your favorite ball player was in the military, you might be able to learn something about that. In his case, he just wrote present reserve status private. So he was not in the military. Hobbies even. Of course, we love to know about our celebrities, right? My brother's into hunting, so I'm wondering if this is why, another reason he likes this guy, because this person is also into hunting. Little League. And here's another question I really like. What was your greatest thrill in professional baseball? In his case, striking out 21 in the Eastern League. Well, I don't do baseball speak, so I'm not sure if he meant 21 players, or maybe somebody out there can explain that to me. Do you have any superstitions? No, which is surprising. I thought most ball players did, but maybe not. Now I'm going to click through to the next one, because I want you to see. Here we have a completely different form. And this is the one that I was saying I think is more global, that may be used by multiple ball clubs. And again, there's a date up here that I don't know is correct. Let's see, 1960. There was also a date, maybe it was the next form, that of when they filled it out. And some of you might recognize this name. I mean, even I recognize this name. Pete Edward Rose, nicknamed Scooter. And you can see some of the questions are different, or at least the format of, but some of the questions are in fact different. Not married at the time, he bats both left and right. Let's see, moving on, got some information about his school, his participation, off-season occupation, sports equipment seller, hobbies, sports, ambition and baseball, big time. So basically he was all about the sports in every aspect of his life, is what it sounds like. There was no messing around there. You get his scouts, club with whom you played before entering, the S&H green stamps, Lebanon Independence. Now that means nothing to me, but I bet there's some kids out there and grown-up kids as well who might find that interesting. And what would you consider your most interesting or unusual experience in baseball? Hitting into a triple play. It's kind of fun to see what they consider to be, you know, their best experiences or most interesting. And in this case, they might even mention family members who have played pro baseball. Okay, let's see, there's a page 2 that we will just look at quickly, and then I'll show you one more form and then move on. Oh, actually, nope, there wasn't a page 2, my apologies. Let me make this a little smaller. Okay, this is the one that made me question the dates. Up here it's stamped February 10th, 1967, but down here it says it is December 26th of 1966. So you definitely want to be cautious about stamp dates and other things like that. Now, I have no idea who this person is. I've never heard of him, but I imagine baseball fans have. And you can see this is obviously quite different. It's a manager questionnaire. It does have some similar information, you know, wife's name, even the kids' ages, which surprises me. He did play pro ball. He played infield, outfield. And then here is a list of different clubs. And down here it does say continued. So in this case, there should, in fact, be a page 2. So let's go there. Oh, that's right. Got to skip one because there's always a blank page in between. Not all collections are like that. Some of them do, in fact, just go directly to the next page. He has not managed before, so apparently this was his first manager job. And if he had, there was a place to list them. And you see a little more information. And of course, his hobbies are pretty much all sports related, either playing or watching them. So again, another person who is really, really into sports, although he does love fishing as well. And even asked if he's made speeches before, which I think is kind of an interesting question. But I suppose as a coach, you really need to make sure that you can do this public speaking and standing up in front of your guys and encouraging them and so forth. So those are just a few of these fun baseball forms. Now,
Karen, can I ask a question about the baseball forms?
Yep.
Well, first I want to say that they're so fun. I'm used to searching Ancestry, like just the basic search interface that we kind of glossed over in the beginning. And you get census records and directory records, which are super helpful, but you never really get anything this detailed and interesting. And I wanted to point that out because I remember that when you and I were talking about this the last time, you told me that this doesn't actually come up in a typical search, but it's something that you have to just go looking for.
Well, yes, because and of course I'm a nerd, so I do watch a lot of videos about this stuff. And there's one particular Ancestry professional, the person who works for this company who does a lot of videos. She calls herself the Barefoot Genealogist. She's an excellent teacher. I certainly recommend to everybody to go watch her videos. They have a YouTube channel, and she has some excellent videos talking about all different aspects of both Ancestry itself and even just doing genealogy research in general. And she is the one that I learned from that when you do the global search, like on the homepage of Ancestry, regardless of which version you're in, I think she said it basically searches maybe 10% of the collections. Now, they are the largest collections that Ancestry has, usually, you know, like your census records, your vitals, that sort of thing. But really, it will only search maybe 10%. So that leaves a lot of little baby collections out there that won't come up in the searches. And of course, anything that is not indexed will not come up in those search results. So it's really best to, this is why I agree with Krista Cowan, the Barefoot Genealogist, that using the card catalog is one of the best ways to go exploring and discovering. And it's also the best way to get directly to, like if you are looking for a specific person, you know, say I realized, you know, great-grandpa Carol Lippy, I didn't yet find the, I don't know, say 1930 census. It didn't come up, and there are a number of reasons why it might not show up, even from a collection that big and that popular. So I could go specifically to, use the card catalog to go directly to the 1930 census collection and do a much more specific search. And it might be that his name was, you know how a lot of names are just completely destroyed in the index. Or it might be that I know I have a relative who had some maybe obscure occupation or something, like baseball. Maybe I knew one of my relatives was a pro ball player, and I was just curious if there'd be anything like that. That's not going to come up in the search results. So if you go in the card catalog and kind of play around, for instance, let me see if I can get back to, that's not where I wanted to go. Let's see. Okay. Within the card catalog up here, you have a couple of search fields, and you wouldn't put names in here, but you could put, for instance, baseball. And you see there are actually 3 different collections of baseball. So that's one of the things you can do to try to narrow down. You could try other search terms, keywords, whatever to see, or you can just do like I, of course, love just exploring in here, social and place histories. Actually, I'm still under baseball, so I guess you can X out these things. You can hit clear all. And then, you know, go through that way. So let's try that again. Social, place, and histories. And you never know what you're going to find in here. There is a number of obscure Queensland, Australia mining accident index. I mean, who would think that, you know, if you have somebody from that area, now you know, well, hey, I should go check that out because you never know. So
I actually did have somebody from that area.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then I
wanted to.
Yeah, you should definitely come in here and go to, you know, use all these filters to get to that area and see what you can find for records, what kind of collections they have. And this is what I love about it, is you can go specifically to your location and even your time period to see, and we'll do that in a second, but I want to show you another thing. So actually, yeah, we'll get back to that. Okay, so this is back to the baseball questionnaires main page. And remember, I pointed out over here these related data collections. And I'm just not going to spend a lot of time here, but I just want you to see this because there are 2 things I wanted to point out. So I'm going to click on the baseball player photos and illustrations. Now this one, you notice 1876 to 2004. And there are 2 reasons I'm pointing that out. One is because that's quite a wide range of time. You know, it's kind of cool to think you can find images of ball players from 1876. So we are going down here. Remember I said it's important to look at the source information. Let's see, this mentions that the database is an index to over 15,000 ball players. Now, I don't know what the total number of ball players is between that time period. So I don't know if 15,000 is comprehensive, but I suspect not. But what I especially wanted to show you is down here. The images included in this collection are players who played between 1887 and 1938. And these images show either a photograph or baseball card. And I wanted to point that out because I mean, that's different than 1876 to 2004. So this is the best way to see what am I actually going to find in there. You know, when I see, for instance, Maine vital collections from, I don't know, 1730 to 1930. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to find all the vital collections from Maine from all those years. It will tell you what's missing. There may be missing dates or missing locations or so on and so forth. So it is important to take a look. And the other thing to point out here, players are listed in the browse table by their popular names, not their birth names. Well, if you didn't know that and you were searching for George Herman Ruth, and by the way, I didn't even realize that was his name. I don't think I ever heard that. You wouldn't find him. You'd be wondering, well, how come I can't find my guy? Well, because he's not listed under that name. He's listed under Babe Ruth. Now, before I get into this, does anybody out there have a particular ball player they want me to go looking for? I mean, I'm not into sports, so it doesn't matter to me. And I think I already looked for Nolan Ryan and didn't find anything for him. So I'll wait a moment and see if any of you have somebody you want me to look for.
How about Woody Harrelson? He played for the Mets.
Seriously? Wow, I did not know that. Like the Woody Harrelson.
The actor.
Not the
Woody
actor.
Harrelson?
Not the actor. No.
Not the
Name is
actor.
Woody
Okay.
Harrelson.
I'm like, wow, that's cool. Oops, I need to go. Hold on, I'm going to make my screen a little smaller and hopefully that will.
Roberta, are you waiting?
Because right now I'm using, I could actually just type in the name, right? That might be simpler. You know what? I'm going to do that. Let's do that instead. And let's see if I spell it right. Harrelson, you said, right?
Yeah, it might only be one R, but well, try that. See what you get.
Let's see. Edit search. That's right. So let me actually close this for a second. Over here, you see you can edit, search, or hit new search. And that was what I did. Or I could just type, actually, you know what? Let me
Roberta has a clue for us. We
Let me just
might
do
be
Buddy.
looking for Buddy.
okay, I removed the
It was
Harrelson.
Buddy. It was Buddy.
Oh, Buddy?
First name Buddy Harrelson.
Oh, Buddy, not Woody. I'm sorry. I heard it completely wrong. Okay.
No, and I did. I got it completely wrong. Sorry.
That's why we do it on Zoom. Everybody can.
Group
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah,
And
group
for some
effort.
reason,
I was gonna Google it.
reason
And I was like, why isn't anything coming up? I know he was there.
it took me back to the main search page. So here we are. Okay, now we're back. Edit search. And let me put in, I can spell the name Buddy. Apparently even that is beyond me. Okay, we have Buddy, Lewis, Hassett, Harrelson, Nicholson. Okay, what was the last name again? It was Harrelson, right?
Yeah, that I know is right. But I don't know as it was 2 R's, but you can try 2 R's.
And usually I never hit exact, so it should usually include the options to, well, that's really odd.
So
I don't know
just look
why
him
it's-
up on Wikipedia.
maybe it could be he's not actually in there.
He
So
posted a
let-
couple names too. So you could try Bud Harrelson. And then he also has a given name if Bud Harrelson doesn't work.
It's
Okay.
2 R's.
And it's
It is
Actually,
yours.
Pete Rose punched him in a World Series game. That's what made me think of it.
Wow.
That's funny.
And that's why I don't like Pete Rose.
That's quite funny.
Bully.
Well, I'm thinking it may be he is not in here, possibly. And it's not letting me choose just the last name over here. So, well,
So
I wonder.
his full name in the chat. It's Daryl McKinley Bud Harrelson.
Oh, actually, you know what? I realize my mistake now. I was looking for Buddy over here, and I was supposed to be looking for Harrelson in this list. But either way, I do not see a Harrelson. Harmon, Hopper, Harrell, Harris, Hartley, Hartnett. And if I scroll by it, somebody can yell at me. But he might not actually, there might not be an image of him. There is a Harrell. Just for the heck of it, let's just go to that. And so at least we can get in there. You can see what we're looking at, what to expect from in here. And in this case, you see down here, it says 1 of 1. So there is just the one picture that has this particular fellow. And let me make this a little smaller, made my screen smaller. So he's somewhere in here. But in this case, you see they have all these names and all these guys. Can also choose to, right here is what looks like a film strip. If you click on that, we'll actually open up these film strips down here, and you can move through images within this specific collection fairly quickly. So you could see, like Ray Harrell, there's one image right there, and then it moves on to Bill Harris with one image. Let's go back here, because whoever this is, they have 4. So I'm going to use this little arrow to move backwards. George Harper. So there are 4 images for George Harper, and you can click on the image to see it. In this case, they have numbers on the guys, and down below should be a list. There we are. So you can see who's who. This person here, there are 11 images. Let me hit this little arrow, go backwards. Bob Harmon. These have some nice ones. Look at this. So you can see too, like within these images, they're actually quite a range of types of pictures. Some of them are group photos, and I just hit the wrong one. Let's go back. There we go. Try to make it smaller, not bigger. So some of them are individuals. This one looks more like a card. And then other ones had the entire group. And I have also seen actual pictures when I was looking at, I think it was Babe Ruth, maybe, that I was looking at. And there were pictures that were not from a card, but were actual images of him, either individually or with a couple other people. So anyway, so that was really mainly what I wanted to show you. I just really wanted to make sure people understand that within these collections, because there's more than one would expect. Actually, I meant to open the whole thing with explaining that a lot of people think they have, if they're not interested in family history, they think they have no reason to look at any family history site. And I want to make sure that folks understand, especially people, parents or even grandparents, because a lot of grandparents have their grandkids with them, that this actually can be used for educational purposes. I mean, I don't know if people consider baseball educational. I guess we could, but it's just fun. But I mean, even universities include Ancestry in their databases, and there's a reason for that, because there's so much to explore. There are so many topics that you can look into, women's suffrage. You saw there were even lesson plans for that. And military immigration, which of course, all these things are always relevant from the past to today. So you can, have your kids explore the collections and the information about them, because that's just as important to get the context, to understand the records. So, I just wanted to make sure people understand. That was my real goal for today, is to have people realize that these collections are useful for a wide range of purposes. It's not just about those of us who are really nerdy and searching for our ancestors. It's also for people who just want to learn, regardless of what they're trying to learn about. There's going to be something in here to relate to what they're looking into. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if there were even things related to, climate. I don't know that for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me. So that is basically what I wanted to talk about and to show you all. And I forgot to even look at my checklist, but I think I pretty much covered it. So I don't know if you guys have any questions or just comments to make, or if you just want to kind of chat about this or have something further you want me to look into. And if not, I can easily show you a few more things.
I have a question.
Yep.
Occasionally when I've looked for family members using more the global search of name and date of birth, sometimes I can't find much as far as birth records, death records. What accounts for whether an individual's in there or not?
Part of it, there are a number of things. Part of it might be whether or not their name was hacked in the index, because some of the names are really destroyed when the folks who are trying to index, they're doing the best they can, but in some cases the writing might not be the greatest, the writing on the actual record, so the person trying to figure out what that says to put it in the index might not quite get that right. So that could be one reason. Another reason could be that the records just aren't even there. And again, that goes back to why I was saying that looking at the source information to see, well, if you see that there is a main collection of vital records and the one you're looking for should be within that time period, but like for instance, this time period, 1876 to 2004, but we couldn't find that one fellow. And I don't know when he is from, but he's not in this collection. Well, maybe he didn't fall within the smaller, remember it gave a smaller period of years that it actually covers for photographs. So that would be something that possibly the locations are missing or specific years. And not everybody was always that great about submitting, whether it's the individuals or more likely the towns. Sometimes things were not always submitted the way they were supposed to be. There was not always compliance with these things. But if you go in the card catalog and narrow down to your specific areas, that will give you a better sense of what's actually there. Let's see if I can get out of this one. Actually, let me click on that. trying to get back to the card catalog itself. So actually, go ahead and give me a location. Where are you looking?
We can't hear you, Pam.
Oops, sorry, I can't hear you.
I didn't bring any of my genealogy records with me, so I don't know that I can come up with one.
Okay.
But now that I'm on the mic, if you're not a subscriber of Ancestry.com, is there a efficient way to keep track of what you're doing as far as your searching, or do you have to subscribe? Like,
Well, you don't have to subscribe. The only thing is when you're not a subscriber, and I'm going to flip over here because on this one, let me scroll up here. Actually, this is where I want to be. Okay. So let me point out first, we were just in the library edition. Notice over here it says Ancestry Library. I am now moving over to regular Ancestry. I'm not signed in here, but I did sign in on this one, just in case there was a reason to. So for instance, and notice I'm not that concerned about capitalization and all that stuff. Ancestry will still pick it up. Maybe it's better to.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Karen, have you changed Windows? Because I'm not seeing.
Oh.
anything.
Right. Okay. Let me do this. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, is it showing now?
Yep, it's showing, but you won't be signed in.
Yep,
In
I
this
noticed
case.
that. Although actually that will work just as well, because even if I were signed in and I was on the other browser, this is what I was seeing. Because I'm not a subscriber, you can still get results. You just won't be able to look at the record itself unless it happens to be something within one of those free collections. And then, like right now, the World War I draft record, I think, nope, okay. It tricked me there. So you just won't be able to look at the record. And as far as keeping track of searches, I'll admit, when it comes to online searching, that does get a little harder to keep track of, doesn't it? Because it's so easy to just go clicking around. But you can kind of either look for or create your own version of a, there are forms to keep track of the searches you've done, the research you've done. I should put it that way, because when we're researching, like in books and so forth, there are forms where you write down where you've looked, the repository, the resource you used, the date you looked in it, your results. So you could try to do something similar. At the very least, write down maybe, or have a document you use, whatever works for you, to write down how you searched it. For instance, this particular spelling, and I also did not include a middle name here because that might make a difference. So you can, make note of the date you searched it, the collection you looked in, the spelling name you used. You might include other information, but the date is important because sometimes these collections are updated. So if you looked at it in January 2018, and then a couple of years later, you had gone back to this particular family and you wondered if maybe there might be something now, even if it doesn't show that things have been updated. Let me show in this catalog. Over here in the sort by, excuse me, when you're in the card catalog, you have different ways you could sort it. And one of them is date updated. And you'll see this collection specifically says updated. This one says new. So this collection already existed, but they have now added to it. Whereas this one is an entirely new collection, is my understanding. That should be what that means. So it means it wasn't even in there before. But if, for instance, you had an ancestor in North Dakota and you hadn't found a marriage record in a previous search, you could check again and see, well, it's been updated. Although I will say, even if something doesn't say it, I think I read somewhere that this little tag, this updated tag, stays on there for about 90 days. I mean, if it's been more than 90 days since you've looked at it, then you wouldn't necessarily know. So it's always a good idea to make note of the date you've searched and then go ahead and go back to these collections occasionally, because you never know. There may have been things added to it. And I also forgot to point out the library, Ancestry Library Edition, the remote access is good at least through the end of May. I did not see an end date for these other collections that I mentioned earlier, the K through 12 lesson plans or the National Archives. But at the Library Edition, you at least have through to the end of May. And I encourage everybody, if you find something that you're interested in, any kind of records, you definitely want to download it. And actually, let me just pop in someplace here, and Liverpool, England, Catholic baptisms, just so I could show you how to do that. I'm just, picking at random here. So when you're in a collection, you see up here the save button. So if you find a record that is relevant to you or you think might be relevant, you never know how long these records are going to be available. Right now, of course, there is the remote access and the other kind of access, but other things that impact that are the contractual obligations that Ancestry has with the repositories from which they get these records. So some of them might have a specific amount of time that Ancestry is allowed to have these online. So when you find a record, there's no guarantee it's always, don't ever assume it will always be available. So I always tell people to download these things. So there we are. So there's a save button. You could send the image home, and when you do that, it just asks for your email. You pop that in there a couple times, hit send, and they'll send you an email. The other option was save to this computer, which is what I normally do. And then I, wherever I want it, I of course have folders and such to save. And I was noting too, down here with these little, what it looks like tools right here, there's even a download and a print option in here. So that would be another way to save it. So if you find something, definitely do that. And of course, you have other ways of looking at these records. So does that answer the question enough?
That helps a lot. Thank you.
Great. Anything else, or is there anywhere else we want to go exploring?
I don't know if Roberta can unmute herself. Karen, would you try unmuting Roberta? I think she had something to say.
Oh no, I was chiming in about the Mets. I just wanted to correct poor Buddy Harrelson's name.
Okay, cool. I'm going to stop the recording now.